Hello, and welcome back to the Irresponsible Comic Book Podcast. Now, you might be saying, this is a little bit of a different look than normal. It is. I'm sorry about this. I'm having to do this because we've had some scheduling mishaps this week where things that I had going on took too long, and we have not been able to sit down and actually chat about the episode this week. And now episode 8 is out, actually. So I just decided, hey, I'm gonna sit down and do this one, and we'll talk about everything kind of in episode 8, the episode 8 review next week, after the series is over, and we can just talk about everything spoiler free. This is episode 7, so spoilers for episode 7 obviously in this, but I'm just gonna kind of go over my favorite parts from this and go over like the big key points, and hopefully it doesn't seem too like forced or weirdly paced, but this is just kind of me throwing this out here in one take to just kind of talk about this episode because it's pretty dang good. This series has been great. All three of us here at Ultra Films have loved this show so much. Like, I can't even tell you how much we love this show. It also, as of today, I can say has been announced for a season 2. So it's the gift that keeps on giving for us. So this episode starts off with Chris reliving his past a little bit. There's been a flashback series that's progressed more and more often, as flashbacks do, where you just get to see more and more of the same altercation happening, and this is him killing his brother accidentally, and so we find he is having his little flashback panic attack moment in the bathroom and reliving him killing his brother, which is pretty emotional and really sad to see him in that situation. And so that's the opening to this episode, and then it pans pretty much directly over to his father in the white dragon outfit that you see up in here, and he's tracking the helmets that Chris took from storage earlier last episode and trying to figure out where Chris is. As we move a little bit further down that storyline, as you follow Chris and his father, they jump into, ultimately Economos comes and asks him about the diary that's been planted. Chris denies it in a very funny way, saying that he'd never put a bunch of fucking stickers on to his diary. And then he goes, I don't know, I mean, at first I wouldn't have thought so, but now that after I've gotten to know you, I think you might have. And he goes, you know what, actually, I'll admit it, I fucking would do that, but it's not me. And the whole everything from their interaction and their side of this episode is great. So then on the other side, the other sort of storyline in this is following Myrn, Harcourt, and Adebayo as they're packing and trying to prepare to leave and get away from the butterflies before they can catch them. And it's very short-lived for some of them. And then the other random plot point in this whole thing is Judo Master has escaped his restraints. We find that out at the beginning, actually, as well. Vigilante goes, Judo Master was supposed to be there? Because there hasn't been as much action with Judo Master as we may have thought. So Judo Master's like eating hot Cheetos in a parking lot, and these two dudes come and make fun of him. They go inside the store, come back out, and get the shit kicked out of him, and he steals their car. And the biggest plot hole in this whole series so far, maybe, is how does he know where Harcourt... I guess he was tied down in there. The only thing that makes sense to me, this is a side tangent that doesn't need to be explored, but I'm going to do it anyways. The only thing that makes sense is he was tied down in their little warehouse where they would have their meetings, and maybe he found out searching through files where they all were staying in the hotel rooms or motel or whatever you want to call it. So I don't know exactly how he located them, but that's the only thing that makes sense, I guess, to me. So he shows up later on down the road, but back over on the Peacemaker side of things, his dad just flies out of the sky in the White Dragon suit, and they're in an RV trip talking about how there's no wrong time to rock. And the RV gets slammed, flips over, and he comes over, rips it open, and says, "I should have killed you a long time ago," which he's been alluding to over the last few episodes. And then starts to take a kill shot, and Vigilante starts shooting his guns at him, pushes him outside of the, forces him to, back up out of the RV, and then he just drops a grenade like 2 feet in front of him, and they both blow up, and Chris and Economos basically run out into the forest, and Vigilante is super, super injured from the grenade blast, hiding behind a tree. He ultimately goes and steals a car as they start searching for them, and that plays into the next piece of their storyline. But then it cuts back over to the Butterflies raiding the hotel room or motel or whatever they're staying at, and Myrn still being locked in the room. So they show up. I've actually watched the episode twice now. And the first time I was kind of confused. I was like, wait, how did they find them again? Until I remembered that their man on the inside, which was the police captain, Captain Locke, he was supposed to be on their side, and he had met with Myrn in the building that they were staying at. So that's how he knew, and the rest of the police force obviously subsequently knew that's where they were staying, and that's where they would be. So they end up finding him, pinning him in his room. He has a walkie-talkie. He tells Adebayo and Harcourt that they need to finish the job and get to the cow as they're breaking in. And the other police officer, Sophie, she goes, "How do you know about the cow?" Because that's now Goff, the main lead queen butterfly. And she questions, how do you know about that? And then he's like, "I'll never tell it." And she just shoots him straight up in the chest. Adebayo and Harcourt are pretty shocked. But then he crawls out, the little butterfly crawls out of Myrn's body, and she catches it and goes, "Oh, you're..." Hold on, I have the name. I wrote it down. Iknobluk is his butterfly name. And he's a warrior, obviously, from their planet. And she says, "You could have joined us," and then crushes him and throws him on the ground. Then the rest of the police officers obviously leave, and they say, "We got to get the cow out of here," because obviously they know Peacemaker and the team are planning on killing the cow, since that's what Myrn literally just told them to do. And they also reveal that there's going to be a teleporter to teleport it out of there into another discrete location that the team has no idea or intel on now. So then after that whole thing, Judo Master, after driving around, shows up out of nowhere and fights Harcourt and Adebayo, beats the crap out of Harcourt for a while, and then she's smiling with blood, which is pretty badass, honestly. And then Adebayo tases him in the back and tases him till he passes out, and that's the last we really see of him. Then pretty shortly after, it cuts, I guess it's all sequenced a little bit weird, but cuts back over to the stuff going down with Peacemaker and his father. Vigilante had stolen that car, like I had said earlier. He ends up pulling off to passing out and not crashing, but going off to the side of the road. And as Chris and Economos come out of the forest, they find him, tell him to open the door. He slides over. Peacemaker starts driving, and they go, "How?" He asks the question, "How did he even find you?" And he goes, "It's because of the helmets. They have trackers in them." And then he looks over all confused, doesn't even have to say anything, just gives a kind of face. And Peacemaker instantly knew that he took the rest of the helmets and kept them because he's like, "I don't know, I thought they were valuable." And so Vigilante strikes again, my favorite character from the series. So then they essentially Vigilante goes to go take a piss break because he needed to pee. Economos is told to get Eagly back in the car, and he's like, "Go crumple the bag and he'll think it's chips." And then Peacemaker goes to chuck the helmets back into the woods so that they can't get tracked. As he's doing that, though, all of the white supremacists show up out of the bushes and chase him back down to the car and start beating the shit out of him. And then ultimately his dad shows up. So then it's Peacemaker and Eagly versus his father and all these white supremacists. And Eagly gets knocked out by his dad. Peacemaker is getting beat up on the ground. And then as he hits Eagly, he gets up, finds the strength and the courage to charge his dad, tackles him, but then gets blasted by his little blaster. And his dad stands up and he's like giving this little speech about how he should have killed him. I want to say on this second rewatch that Peacemaker is 40 years old. He said that I knew 40, or he said something about God giving me a challenge 40 years ago, and I wasn't strong enough to tackle it then. As if Peacemaker is 40 years old, and because immediately after that line he says, I knew you were weak the moment you were born. So I think that implies that Peacemaker's 40, which is really freaking old. But it sets like a kind of a new standard, because most of the other heroes are implied to be in their, mid to late 20s, maybe early 30s. And you don't really see a hero's journey start off like this late for most heroes, outside of things like put in place like Jay Garrick from the Justice Society. But he's was a hero back when he was younger and still holds the mantle. So it's kind of interesting if he is 40, if that's I don't know if that's confirmed. I just think I heard that. I don't know. But anyways, so we get this huge fight between the white supremacists and Peacemaker. And then out of the bushes again, Vigilante jumps and he stabs, which you almost think he kills the white dragon. He stabs his dad and goes, there's chinks in the armor or whatever. And then he gets thrown off. And then all these white supremacists have guns pointing at him and at Chris. And then out of nowhere, Economos has the P90 that they were talking about at the beginning of the episode. That was given to him, Peacemaker by Harcourt at the end of episode 6. And he just sprays them all down and saves their lives again, which he's done now twice, if not 3 times so far. And then so they're all taken out, and then it's Chris and his father 1v1 sort of scenario, where he's standing over Chris saying, I'm gonna kill you or whatever, and then his blasters don't work anymore because they got taken out when Vigilante came and stabbed his armor. Whatever circuitry he cut, and it disabled them. So Chris gets up, tackles him against the car, punches him, his mask flies off, beats the shit out of him, told him his father is the reason that Keith, his brother, is dead, and that it was his fault, and that he should never have listened to his father for as long as he did, and that he should have killed his father in his sleep. Just these big regrets about their relationship. And then his dad is a total prick and continues berating him like he always has in the past and in this series in specific that we've seen. And Peacemaker's kind of fed up with it, and as he's saying, even if you don't kill me, I'll always control, and then boom, shoots him in the head straight through the brain. And it's pretty rough. And the first time I watched it, I think I cried for Peacemaker, because I was like, man, dude, that is a tough call to make, and he made the right one in my opinion. His dad was never going to change. His dad didn't deserve second chances, and his dad was literally destroying his life at every turn possible, and he wanted to kill his own son just for being a pussy, or what all the other words that he would call him. So I think Chris made the right decision in this place, in his own mind and in his own situation. And it was the right move, and he gets to move forward. And then moving forward to the rest of the episode, it's still a bit emotional for pieces of it, but it's also just a joke to make you kind of cry or to stop crying, but like turn it from like a sort of somber cry to a laughing cry. Eagly obviously was injured by the White Dragon. They go to a vet hospital. Peacemaker's in the waiting room with Eagly, sending a prayer, and it's pretty funny shit that he says. And he goes, "I was a bad friend, Eagly," and he's crying about, I should have left you with some desperate chick who would have loved me anyways, and I wouldn't even have had to have sex with her, but I probably should have, just like one time to be nice. And honestly, I'm coming out of prison, so I probably would have wanted it anyways. It's the whole sequence there is funny. The sequence of Vigilante holding the surgeons hostage. The vets, he has them at gunpoint saying they know who we are, they've seen our face. He makes a joke about the male nurse, and he goes, "Man, it must be weird waking up every day as a male nurse." And then Economos goes, "Dude, you're a fucking busboy." The whole sequence just makes you kind of like move forward in a healthy, like, yeah, no, we're good now kind of way. And so then after a little bit of discussion and all the things going down, they decide to tie up all the vets, take their vehicle, and Harcourt becomes the new leader of the team. And then they roll out. They have like a little epic montage of them walking out to go into the car. And then it cuts over to the butterflies, who have all transported over to this farm where they're keeping the cow. And holy cow, it's that thing. And it's like a giant caterpillar. It reminds me of Rufus the naked mole rat. I don't know why. I think it's like the one little tooth things, and I don't think that's what they based it off of, but like it's pretty huge and terrifying to be like, but it's really not like a threat at all. If you think about it, it's like, this is like a cow on their farm. It's like a peaceful animal. So, but you get the cow reveal and what the whole rest of episode 8 should look like. It's all the butterflies versus Peacemaker, Vigilante, Harcourt, Adebayo, Economos, and Eagly. So you got 6 members of a team, one of them being a bird, against an alien invasion, and they have to stop it. So it leaves this like this great just amount of what the hell, how is this gonna, how are they gonna pull this off sort of vibe to it. And episode 8 is out. I will say right now, I have watched it. It's fantastic. I'm very excited to review episode 8 with the boys. It's gonna be one of my favorite episodes to do, especially going forward. What I will be covering is mostly gonna be DC stuff. So if you like this video, this is it's gonna be a bit more organized than just me rambling about a show for 20 minutes. But videos going forward are going to be covered sort of, we'll do the Irresponsible Comic Book Podcast once a week. That'll be a weekly podcast going forward. However, a lot of the other content that we're going to be covering will be individuals covering certain shows. So I'll say this now, if you're still watching, like in March, The Flash returns. So season 8 of The Flash will be there. I will be covering that. Whereas Moon Knight comes out March 30th. I don't have time to watch The Flash every week, watch Moon Knight every week, do the Irresponsible Comic Book Podcast, do an individual episode on The Flash, and do the Irresponsible Podcast every week, and do a group Moon Knight and plan all of it. It's just too much to do. So we're kind of like, even though we're all participating in the channel and moving it forward, we're like individually going to be advancing and covering the things that we really want to cover. And it also gives us more time to just cover more stuff. So hopefully this video is a good like precursor to that sort of thing. Going forward, we'll probably, I don't know exactly how it'll work. We'll be chopping the videos up to make it more concise, and covering like certain things. We'll be doing like a specific review or a breakdown or a specific Easter egg video, and doing those things for whatever series, rather than just like, hey, here's like us all sitting down together every week talking about this one episode for an hour. So obviously we're still going to be covering like the Irresponsible Comic Book Podcast will be covering every sort of thing that we're like watching and like things we like from shows. However, for in like we're trying to get more focused, I guess, with certain series. So that's what basically we're just trying to be more focused and more concise. That was a really inconcise way of saying we're trying to be more concise. Wow, good job, Evan. Anyways, we're very, very excited for episode 8. I've already seen it. I think Nightwolf has already seen it, or Wildcard William, I'm sorry. And I don't know if our resident expert has seen it. He had to work all day today. But I decided, hey, I'm going to cover episode 7 to get it out of the way, because we can talk about some of this stuff that happened in this episode while we cover episode 8, because 8 is such a banger. It has to be. It's going to be a long one. So, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Irresponsible Comic Book Podcast. And we will see you in the next one. Till then, peace.